So we've had a look at middleware, we've looked at changing environments, but whenever you're building an application, there has to be some sort of configuration that's happening in the background. And there are different ways you can do that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So some of the ways I've heard people doing it is through databases in the past. Is that right?
Configuration information that lives in your database. Yeah.
And sometimes people do it in JSON as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the way that people typically do it in an application like this?
Well, so in the old days in ASP.NET, we would go into the web.config and there'd be some name value pairs.
Okay.
But now you want to have a lot more choice. You want to be able to pick where your configuration goes. People usually like to put it into a JSON file of some kind.
But this will be a separate, so in our project JSON, do we have a dependency that is already in there for configuration?
No, we don't. That's a good point. So remember, we had to go and add static files in order to serve static files. We'll need to go and bring in a configuration management system that's built into ASP.NET and opt into that. So we can do it by editing project.json, but I'm going to try to be visual, and I'm going to go into the Nuget packages area here and hit browse, and I'm going to go and look for
configuration.
And
anyone can write a Nuget package, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Nuget is at nuget.org, and you can go and submit your packages, and you can, open source projects can put their stuff up there. And when we search this, we're not just seeing Microsoft stuff. We are seeing all stuff. So you got to think about that when you look for things. Now, here we've got configuration.json. I want to get that one because I'm going to use JavaScript for my configuration.
Okay.
So we'll hit.
But if you weren't using JavaScript, you'd use something else.
I might use an ini file or XML or write my own configuration manager. And we see over here that's showing up. It just showed up. You see how it's a tree, in fact. So configurations.json required configuration, required a JSON library, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't have to think about that, though. I just said I wanted JSON configuration, and the whole tree came in.
Okay, brings everything you need.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All of the dependencies that you need. And you only see one dependency added to the project.json. All right? Cool. So in our startup, which is kind of like the beginning of our application, okay, we're going to add a configuration object, and we're going to add it as a field. We're going to say public I configuration root. Configuration root. And you'll notice that it squiggles.
Yeah.
Okay, that's because it doesn't know where it's coming from yet. And there's a great little feature with Visual Studio, and Visual Studio Code does it as well.
The light bulb.
And the light bulb.
Yeah, I love the light bulb.
Mm-hmm. Here it says, did you mean that? Using Microsoft.extensions.configuration. And it'll actually tell me what it'll do to fix that. So I just clicked it.
It also shows you the potential, what it would look like, right?
Exactly. So here.
It's still grayed out, though.
Well, it's grayed out because it thinks it's not necessary because I haven't done anything with it. See, it says using is unnecessary. Good eye. In fact, it is necessary because I'm going to eventually need one called configuration. And I'm going to say get set. So now I have a property here. And now, of course, this is no longer grayed out. So our configuration system lives inside of that root object. Now, just like we built up our application, we need to build up our configuration. And we're going to do that inside of the constructor of startup. So this is the constructor that runs when startup gets made. All right. Configuration, new. Remember app builder?
Yep.
There is
configuration builder?
Configuration builder, exactly. And it gets built up with that multi-line process there. And you see how we have add?
Yeah.
Check this out. Environment variables can be a piece of configuration as well. And here, add JSON file. Remember that little arrow there means extension method. That got added. So let's add a JSON file, and we'll just name it app settings.json. It doesn't have to be that. It
can be anything.
And as with all builders, at the end you say build.
Put it all together.
Okay. That put this configuration object, and that basically constructs it, and it now lives on that field. Okay?
So one thing I've noticed, we have an app settings JSON file.
Do we?
No, I'm saying you've made one. You've
I've
one.
said that there should be one.
Oh, so they should be one.
Well, that's a good point, actually. We should run it and see what happens if there
Let's
isn't.
have a look at what happens if it doesn't.
No, that's a good point. So let's run that and see what happens. Probably chaos.
Did you break .NET?
Yeah. No, I didn't break .NET. Just, I broke inside of a constructor. So you see how .NET crashed right there?
Yeah.
It's because I tried to go and do something in a constructor. I have no exception handler. I have nothing saving me from that. So it's unable to recover. Look, it is not optional.
Because it's not there.
Configure, so file not found. All right. Now, of course, I could put in code to see if it was there or not, but let's go and say add, new item, make some JavaScript.
No, it's a JSON.
Well, there's JSON schema, but JavaScript file is a JSON file.
Okay.
So I'm going to say app settings.json. I just need that to get started. Ultimately, it's a blank file anyway. So then we say, remember it's name value pairs?
Yep.
All right. We'll say message colon hello from configuration. Nice and simple.
Nice and simple.
Should that work?
Let's give it a try.
That is the way. Huh? Nope, still can't find it. Was not found. Well, we didn't really tell it where to look. We made kind of an assumption.
So we have to add some sort of hosting environment?
Well, that's a good point. So the hosting environment, if you remember back over here, we said use content root. We told it about where to look. And inside of
our configuration builder,
we need to tell it where to look. But see this hosting environment here? Hosting environment, when we say env dot, has this root path.
Okay.
That's where we want it to go and look. So here's where things get a little interesting. And I think this is really a little confusing. But if you get this, then you're really going to understand how it all fits together. So check this out. So you say configuration builder. And before you add the JSON file, we're going to say set base path. So then the question is, where's the path? Remember I said before, it's on env. It was env dot content root path, right? Okay. That says, look there. Why is env squiggled? It does not exist in current content. Current context. What context are we in here? This is a constructor for startup. We're not in the configure method.
Yeah.
So how do I get one of these hosting environments? Any thoughts?
You're in your hosting environment.
Now we are in our startup class right now. What we want is inside the hosting environment. We're going to talk more about this in the intermediate part of the course, but this is a dependency that we need.
So we need to inject something
We need them to inject it for us. So we're going to say, hey, we're going to declare, we need an iHosting environment. And anything that we declare, if I said I need a new foo called foo, it's going to go and say, I have no idea what foo is because you never told me about it. Yeah, no. But it does know about iHosting environment. Okay? And it's going to make a new one for me. It's going to inject it. And during the dependency injection part of the talk, we're going to
focus on something like this?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So let's try this one. And if it doesn't crash, it's success. That's my new minimum bar. All right. So here, it did not crash. We didn't do anything with it, though.
So do I know, where's that coming from?
Where's the hello world?
Yeah, so it's coming back from our original.
Yep, nothing's changed. That was our stuff here. But what we could do, if we wanted to, is we could put a breakpoint there.
And see what.
Do some interactive debugging. So instead of pushing F5, Control F5, I'm going to click this button here. We're going to start a debug session. There we go. So we just broke, not broke in a I'm broken way, but broke in a we are paused kind of way, and we're sitting right here. You see how configuration is null? All right? We're going to step over. There's a debug toolbar we can use there. step over. And now I'm going to hover over the configuration. And now it's got that provider inside it, and I can dig around looking for stuff. And look, oops, let me do that again. Sometimes you got to dig for these things. Data, hello configuration. So we know that it found the file because it didn't crash.
Crash, yeah.
And we know that it found the message because we can see it there. Now before, you had me doing the cool strings stuff in C# like this, right? We should be able to do that with
the configuration
as well, okay? Hello from hello in production. It's something, and then I don't know, configuration, right?
Yeah.
So what do we do?
Dot.
I'll say configuration. That's the name of our property. And I think it was called message.
The one in the app setting? Yes.
We can go and check.
You can go cross-check that.
Message, hello from configuration. So we're pulling it out of this bag here. Yep, I can't go on multiple lines in that particular string. All right. Do you think that's going to work?
I hope so. I trust you.
You trust me?
I trust you.
I don't think so. Let's find out. Maybe it will. I'll be impressed if we pull it off on the first try. It works.
It worked.
All right. So which configuration object is this? Remember that there? If you ever wonder, like, where is that coming from? Right-click, go to definition. It's that one. So let's just walk through this briefly from top to bottom. When our application starts up, the constructor is created, and ASP.NET and .NET looks at this and says, hosting environment. I didn't know that they needed one of those. And it makes one. Or it pulls it out of its list of services. That's an example of a service that I needed. Here we're going to go and make our configuration builder. We told it where the files are. And this is really cool because we could put that file anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the root path.
It doesn't have to? Okay.
Then that loads the config. And then later on, when our application goes running, it's sitting inside of that variable.
Role configuration.
Because we set it right there, and it's public, and it sits in startup. And then we could go and grab configuration builders elsewhere in our application if we wanted to share it and get config from other places. Cool. So in this case now, we've got an environment name and configuration both in our little Hello World app.
And I could also create an app setting.xml.
Yep.
As well?
So in this case, we went and made a JSON file, but there are XML configuration managers. There's an INI file, which is just like a YAML. It's like name value pairs. We could theoretically hook it up to a database. It's really up to you.
Right.
Okay. One other thing to point out, though, is that so far, even though this is an introduction to ASP.NET, all we've seen is Hello World string type,
yeah, that's all.
and some static HTML. I think we'll come back and we'll learn more about Model View Controller.
Yep, what it is and when we use it.
Absolutely.